Joel Farrell here. We're going to be talking about some creative real estate strategies, and I've got a couple of guests on. Return guest Chris Iannotti in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Also a Bears fan. Don't hold it against him. Teresa Torrez, United States military veteran in Clearwater, Florida. Unique deal structure. So we're just going to talk shop and see where it goes. So, Chris, tell me what is a tall and skinny? Because I'm thinking like natty lights here, natty lights, maybe these pink special things. What's a tall and skinny?
So tall and skinnies are new construction developments that a lot of developers are doing here in Nashville, where they're buying old, outdated homes and getting it approved through zoning in Nashville to build two homes on that single lot. So they are narrow in stature um, as far as the width goes, and they go straight up, either 2 to 3 stories, and they're long. They go longer towards the back of the lot. So it's just a way to 2x your return on buying a single lot.
Kind
Okay,
of
so
like the gunshot home model.
Exactly, yeah. Shotgun style houses that we had in Chicago were a popular thing where you could walk in the front door and see straight through the entire property right out to the back door. But they are selling anywhere from 700 to $900,000 a piece, and they
Wow.
don't stay on the market long. So people
Wow.
people are fans. Not much privacy, not much yard to speak of, but they're willing to trade that for the location and having a brand new home.
Hmm.
okay, so I want to dig into that in a second. But Teresa, what's the typical type of scenario that you're seeing in your world of creative deal structure and whatnot?
We're just seeing a lot of seller finance, a lot of hybrids where you have a subject to plus a seller finance, where the seller carries their equity and you're still paying the payments to the mortgage. And a lot of wraps going on right now.
Okay.
Such a relief to hear another real estate agent use those terms and know about those type of deals, because more times than not, real estate agents I meet here locally and in other states, they're totally lost. They've never heard of such a thing, and they claim it's illegal on top of it.
I know. That's the funniest thing ever. I'm like, no, it's actually the term subject to is derived from the title company's waiver saying that this title is free and clear subject to this lien that's not being paid off that the buyer has to sign. That's where the whole title comes from, subject to.
It's awesome, breath of fresh air.
Thank you. And you're an agent in Tennessee.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, it is super nice. Most agents do not know it. I think because you have to be on the investor side. You know, if you're an investor, I've bought many properties this way. Um, then of course you become very familiar with it.
It's one thing, Joel. I'm not trying to hijack your meeting here, but it's one thing to call sellers directly when they're not able to sell their property on the market the traditional route and to pitch a sub-2 deal. It's another to talk to an agent and try to, when they've got the property listed, try to have that conversation with them. It's usually a no. They shut it down. My client's not interested before they even talk to their client. But it's a whole nother thing when you're talking to a buyer, like say a first-time home buyer that says, "Oh, I'm waiting to save up my 20% down payment," and I try to tell them, "Do you know that there's other options out there besides the traditional way of going about things?" Or they're waiting to fix their credit, or waiting for a bankruptcy to fall off, something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Traditionally, you've always saw like seller finance rent to own programs. They were designed for business owners who couldn't qualify for the loan, and for individuals who had the money to say that, hey, look, here's my money. My credit sucks, but give me a chance. That's what it was designed for. But we're seeing it just a lot more in general, kind of to counteract the interest rates from the banks, the lenders right now.
Absolutely.
So, because you mentioned seller carry, I'm sorry, subject to and a seller carry.
Hmm.
And for the listeners out there that don't know what that is, can you walk us through the blueprints of first off, why do we need to, why does this buyer or seller need to entertain creative deal structure? And then how does it work in this scenario to kind of make it beneficial for both sides?
All right. So seller finance is an umbrella term for a lot of different things. And seller carry typically is a lender term, meaning that they're going to allow the seller to carry a certain small percentage. And then we use it to describe a seller finance portion of the loan. But each piece does require a little bit different documentation and representation on paper to keep every side aware of what is going on. A seller carry, like is in the one we were doing before with the mobile home park in Bunnell, the lender authorized the seller to carry 10%. A seller carry, just in mean terms, mean the seller is accepting a deposit of money, but they are agreeing to accept some over installment payments, the same as seller finance. Um, right now, I had just done one where the seller had bought the house just a year ago. She could not sell it traditionally without having to go to the bank, and she did not want to be the landlord. So it was a newly rehabbed home in great condition. She just had buyer's remorse and actually wanted a different house. So I bought that one subject to, and that way I make the payments to her. Joel, I think actually the one I'm thinking of, you financed out for her other property, her other home, and it works wonderfully. Now she doesn't have to be the landlord. Instead of having to be the landlord and getting a property manager where you're going to give them your first month's rent and keep paying for all of the monthly maintenance, it's very advantageous to do it this way. I gave her money in her pocket, and then I make all of the repairs. We just put a new roof on that house. So she doesn't have to get bothered with any of it, which is one reason why it's so advantageous for sellers to sell that way.
It also benefits you because she has deed in hand. She is now the listed owner on title, owning that property, and can take advantage of the tax benefits of the depreciation, whether she wants to, spread it out over a period of time or take all 27 and a half years of depreciation up front. She can do that too. So, I mean, those are all benefits for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So taking this scenario and the typical, mantra of this is dangerous, this is risky, this is illegal. What is that? Where is that coming from?
In this 1970s, subject to the due on sale clause was put in every mortgage. And that happened a lot because people were giving cash and then walking away. The buyer thinks, oh, I bought this property, the liens weren't being paid off, the titles changed hands, and the lender needed a acceleration clause and a due on sale clause. 100%, I believe that is fair to the lenders. And if you've lent money, then you should 100% get it back. So because of the due on sale clause, a lot of people think that it is illegal. However, I was speaking with one lender. I was doing this for a gentleman. He was behind in his mortgage. So it's a wonderful thing, especially for pre-foreclosure. This is a huge blessing because he was behind in his payments. It was a small bank, so I was a little bit nervous myself, wondering if they were going to call it due. And she plain out asked, is the deed going to change names? And I said, well, we're still working on that, which way we're going to process this. And she says, okay, well, no problem. But if it does, I just need to let you know that we'll have the right to call it due. It doesn't mean that we will, but we will have the right to call it due. I've never really had a problem with any of mine subject twos at all. The way I do it, I speak with the lenders. They actually very much love me. We just sold one that we caught up. They were behind $31,000 in their mortgage. We caught them up and then rented it out for 3 years, fixing it up. And then my tenant buyer, because they sold it with an agreement for deed, he fixed it up and then he just sold it. So I was able to call that seller up and say, hey, congratulations, your payments have been made on time for 3 years, and now the property is sold, so it's no longer in your name. And he was delighted.
I think also too, Joel, a lot of it comes down to just ignorance, lack of information, and not knowing. And at the sound of it, the saying, it sounds too good to be true. It probably is. Sellers that are in distress, this sounds almost too good to be true, that it solves their problems and helps them out of a situation. And it also helps the investor or the buyer that maybe can't go to the bank and get a traditional loan. So rather than humble themselves, and I know this isn't a popular statement to make, but I'm kind of that guy that's willing to just say it, right? Like they don't have the humility to admit, like, I don't really know what that is or how that works. Teach me or tell me or show me, or let me try to learn and let me present it to my seller and see if it's an option. The real estate agent still gets paid, and I think that's what they're afraid of too, that they're not going to get their 3% commission if they do something that's less than traditional or creative option for a sale.
Yeah. That's probably the agent's biggest concern.
Yes, I agree. We all want to get paid, and we make sure that agents do get paid. I mean, that's part of the process. That's part of the entry fee, and it's part of the negotiation for sure.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, it just seems like from a data standpoint, there's a lot of listings that are on the market longer than usual. Properties are sitting. Buyers are not pulling the trigger. So you got stuff just sitting on the market. Market's kind of frozen in many different markets geographically. And I think a lot of it has to do with the price, right? I mean, if the price is right, buyers will make a move. And sellers are holding on a price for multiple reasons. And if they want to get a certain price and a buyer's not willing to pay it, obviously it's going to sit. Is that where some of these creative strategies can come into play and create middle ground?
Absolutely. Because one of the reasons the market is holding is normally when they raise the rates, they do that to lower the value of the homes. Oddly enough, right now, sellers they're not coming down. I mean, you're seeing 40 to 50, but it doesn't compare with the tax increases and the interest rates that happen on the loan. So right now, it is cheaper to buy than it is to rent. A creative strategy where they'll carry at a lower interest rate, but take a higher purchase price, take the higher purchase price that they want, as long as the numbers still work out. I mean, you see some where they're still wanting to put 200 on the value of the property, and then they're offering a 3% interest. But the numbers are hard to work out when they go and do something like that. So the numbers still have to make sense. It still needs to make sense for a buyer to move.
I agree with that, and I'd second that statement. A lot of sellers are still living in the market from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where people were just buying up like crazy. They could borrow money a lot cheaper than they can today. So, yeah, I'm seeing that as well. Properties are sitting longer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And I was watching an expert real estate panel on economists on what they thought, why they thought the hold. And there is a theory that everyone sees that there's still a demand because there is going to be a housing shortage. But there's been more multifamily development, a lot more, because there's a general anticipation that a lot of people will not be able to buy a house, which we could be leading to that way. But this strategy allows home ownership in where a traditional setting would not.
I'm seeing a lot of developers here building houses directed towards renters.
Yes.
So they're using maybe not as high quality finishes and products, but people would rather rent a house than they would an apartment any day of the week. So yeah, it's just interesting that people are molding their business strategies to the market and how the market is acting. And I think that's what you have to do right now.
Yeah. Matter of fact, there's a 30-unit rental portfolio available. It's in St. Pete, 30 units.
You froze up there for a second, but I love the fact that you're pitching deals right here, right now. You're doing, that's smart.
So 30 units, are they detached singles or what was the
Detached
structure?
singles, 2,000 square foot plus homes, beautiful homes. A whole neighborhood just dedicated to rentals.
What's the price tag?
That one is 16 million.
What do you say, guys? We go thirds?
Right.
I want to get the hotel. There's a hotel in Clearwater Beach I want. So if you guys want to join in on that one.
I think I need to come down there and just take a look at the property in person.
Yeah.
Pictures won't do it justice.
Give me a call when you get down here.
I sure will.
I'll represent you. Viewpoint Realty International. That's me, Teresa.
Awesome.
Got to give the plug. Hey.
You have to.
Well, on the residential side of things, there's certain types of connotations and expectations from, the way people talk about these things. I've got a warehouse that I'm working on in Georgia. It's like $800,000, putting 30% down, 30-year. It's a 30-year fixed type of loan structure, and we went in hoping to put less money down, but certain things happened. We had to put more money down, and so now we're in this point where we're negotiating a seller carry of 10%, and the back end commercial lending piece of it, they're okay with it, no big deal. Like, this is what we got to do to get the deal done, and there's no separate type of escrow. It's all being done all in one escrow, all one closing, and no big deal. It's just the way that you get it done. And I think on the residential side, the lenders don't want to see that. Residential lenders don't want to see it. So you got to be a little bit creative to make these types of seller carries, or things because again, if you're getting new financing and then doing a seller carry, that's one thing. If you're doing a sub 2, taking on the mortgage and then doing a seller carry, that's completely different and probably easier to do. But on the commercial side of things, getting a new loan, establishing new financing, getting a seller carry, that's very common.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying though is that doing a sub 2, that new buyer is taking on the deed and having it in their name, and just the financing just stays put.
The traditional, yes, absolutely. The traditional sub 2 is the seller's mortgage stays in place, stays in their name. The buyer takes the deed, responsibility for all the property, and has agreed to pay their mortgage on the seller's behalf. Now, you do have some hybrid options also, okay? Now, what you were saying about the single family and the seller carry on the private note, what you would have to do is just keep the purchase contract as a whole with a separate seller finance addendum that doesn't get disclosed. The seller then also has to agree that they are not in a recorded position.
Got it. Yeah, so unsecured,
Yes.
sort of.
Sort of.
The
But
other
you can complement that. You can complement that with a deed in lieu, a release, a quitclaim deed held in escrow.
And the other part of that too is, you've got property taxes, homeowners insurance, and actually homeowners insurance. If you don't negotiate that or handle that correctly, that could raise a red flag for the bank as well, and get you that due on sale clause. And again, Teresa, you nailed it. Just because a bank calls the loan due or exercises their acceleration clause doesn't mean that they won't still work with you in this kind of situation. It's just a matter of having those conversations. You could opt out of that sub 2 and transition to a lease option to satisfy some of their needs. And everyone talks about sub 2 and seller finance, but contract for deed is how I got started. How I started buying commercial properties, where I had a landlord that wanted to sell commercial property. I didn't have the money to go to the bank, so we drew up a contract for deed. I made monthly payments. He held on to ownership until all those payments were made, and then we transferred title once all those payments were made. So I mean, there is multiple options. Lease option is another creative finance option.
Yeah.
It's a matter of having these tools in your tool belt, really taking into consideration what the seller's situation is, what kind of distress are they in, and being able to find those tools that fit that piece of the puzzle that gets the job done and helps the seller out of their situation. So,
Exactly. And also, though, Chris, I've never had anyone call. I've never had a property called due. I've never had a mortgage called due. Thank God. I do things in a very certain manner that pretty much will ensure that that does not happen.
Yeah.
So So
Contracts are key,
I'm
for sure.
but I love the contract for deed. Actually, I used to do lease options, but I'm not the biggest fan of a lease option. I definitely have friends that love it. Mark Monroe, he's a big fan of the lease option, but I personally, I love the contract for deed.
Yeah, it
Can
is.
you explain the difference high level?
So a lease option, and hopefully there's not too many tenants listening to this, but this is a heads up for the investors, right? They need to be aware that on a lease option, they are still technically responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of that property. And a lot of investors get themselves in trouble by not being aware that a lease option, the option is simply the down payment, but you still have a lease and you can still be taken to landlord-tenant court. You're still subject to the landlord-tenant law anytime you're in a lease option. If you use the agreement for deed, you are not subject to the landlord-tenant. That's a straight-up considered purchase.
And a contract for deed, the only difference with that and sub two is the deed is not changing hands until the debt has been satisfied.
Exactly, exactly. But if I'm doing a contract for deed, unless I'm considering a wrap and it's my property, if I'm doing it for someone else and it's another investor, I will still always disclose that that the agreement's been made subject to another loan, just to avoid any, oh, you didn't tell me. I didn't understand that. So I always put all kinds of safety clauses in my agreements. Protection of all the parties, that's the goal.
Absolutely.
So if somebody had any questions on this stuff, anybody want to throw out the best way to reach out to you? Email or phone number or whatnot?
Yeah, yeah. Well, Theresa Torrez, you can reach me on my cell phone. It's 757-870-7718. And MTR Strategies, Mike Tango Romeo, strategies.com. It stands for Mama Torres Real Estate Strategies.com.
It's awesome. I'm Chris Iannotti with Benchmark Realty out of Franklin, Tennessee. My telephone number is 636-484-4353. And I'm all over social media, Instagram, TikTok, as Hustle Dad with 2 Ds at the end. Being a dad is one of the greatest jobs that I have over being a realtor, being an investor. And that's why I chose that handle. So anyone is more than welcome to message me, give me a call, and I'm more than happy to help in any way I can.
That's cool.
So I want to dig into these tall and skinnies and then come back to exit strategies on a couple of these creative deals. So I'm going to share my screen and show an example. So
I sent you one this morning too, didn't I?
yeah, this is the one you sent me, right?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So this is finished, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so before we get into the property itself, because one of the plays that you had mentioned in one of your Instagram videos, which this little video of you guys talking and walking, walking and talking, strutting, all that stuff. You showed a lot, and I think one of the things you mentioned is the play is to be able to build 2 structures on one lot.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see in that neighborhood right there in that video that you're showing, on one side of me, in that shot right there, is a house that was probably built in the 60s or 70s. It just hasn't been updated much. It's a nice house, sure, it's fine, but that whole street, right across the street and right next door, was just like that lot where they bought a house, $400,000, $500,000, somewhere in that ballpark range, which is usually a pretty nice house, right? $500,000 should get you a decent house, and they're scraping is what they call it. They just bulldoze the house, and they'll build 2 of those tall and skinnies, is what we called them, side by side. And like I said, $900,000 a piece is what those are selling for in that particular neighborhood on that street. So you spent the $500,000 to purchase the house, the lot. It's not very much to bulldoze a building or a house to take it down. construction obviously is not cheap, all the permitting and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. And obviously a lot of developers use a 20% formula where the end sale of the properties that they build should be 20% of whatever they purchase the property for, right? Or the 20% is the profit margin that they expect to make.
20% on each one individually.
Total. So
Yeah.
So you figure for those two houses plus the land, he's probably in for $1 million or so. He's going to make 1.8 adjusted, at the back end. So I mean, some guys are getting away from the 20% rule where they're actually willing to take a little bit of hit or spend a little bit more on the property just because they're building them so fast and they're selling so quickly that they're willing to sacrifice some of their profit margin for the volume. If that makes sense.
What about the zoning of this? I mean, how do you taking one lot and building two on it?
Yeah, so Nashville, another thing that they're doing, they're not only willing to let you build two properties on one lot, but they're also doing something called an HPR. I don't know if anyone else has heard of this before, where they will take one lot like that, but let you build a second house, a second driveway behind the house. So it is a process, but man, they're not saying to a whole lot. They're not saying no to a whole lot of folks. The other thing is we've got the DADUs here, the detached additional dwelling units, that they will let you build an additional house behind your house, maybe smaller, and you can use those as income producing units. So that's another popular thing that they're doing here.
So tell me about this listing right here. Like what's how are you associated with this, and what's going on here?
So my buddy is actually the builder. He built that house. He I don't know, already this year I think he's built probably 14 houses, and he kind of specializes in these tall and skinnies. His wife is a realtor, so unfortunately for me, she gets all the listings, but I do try to find buyers for him whenever I can. But yeah, I mean, the guy's really good about finding land, finding sellers that are willing to sell their house, and he's got the process down pat. It's cookie cutter for him now, where he can just kind of hit the easy button, and these things go up within 4 to 5 months, which is really quick.
Damn. Okay.
But 4 beds, 3.5 baths, almost 2,400 square foot. It's on a 1/4 acre lot. So like, these aren't just little shabby houses that they're building, and they're not taking any shortcuts when it comes to the finishes or anything like that. To me, aesthetically, is it eye pleasing? Like, not really. I mean, because it looks so narrow, but you look at the pictures inside and what they do with these properties, and it's really impressive.
So these prices of a tall and skinny near the other one like this, I mean, how does this compare to a traditional home on, say, a bigger lot? What's the difference in price typically?
Well, these are all in Davidson County. So Davidson County is downtown Nashville and all the surrounding neighborhoods. The amount of influx of people that we have moving here is so much that the market has dictated that they can fetch these prices, right? Outside is a totally different ballgame. It's more like back to reality, where a normal 24 to 3,000 square foot home is, in the $500,000 range. You can find a lot of older homes that are run down that are probably good candidates for a flip, and they're not in the greatest neighborhoods, and they're still selling for $300,000 and $400,000 in Davidson County. And so for me, it's almost like a free for all. The numbers are crazy, and sellers know that. And so you trying to find a good deal, like trying to find a house for $200,000 that you can flip, it's very, very difficult. So flipping is highly desirable here. Anyone that can find a flip property, I mean, if you were a wholesaler and you found a property that you could flip, you could sell those all day long. They're just very, very hard to come by. So everyone is kind of shifted to the development phase. That's where they seem to be making the most money.
And with your buddy, the builder, any idea what the cost per square foot is that he's able to construct these?
I'd have to ask him. Yeah, I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but
Yeah, it's been a massive moving target over the last few years with, just building materials going up and going down and just supply chain and finding the right labor. But he's got it down to a science there. That's
And that's the thing, because he can keep his contractors busy. He has the same team, the same company that does all this work. If you were just doing, 2 builds a year, good luck finding a contractor.
yeah, gotta have it in scale. Teresa, I've got MTR strategies up because you have a few listings on your site, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share this real quick. And Chris, as I'm pulling this up, on the buy side in your market, obviously cash is king, but are you seeing buyers, sellers, who's got control, down payment assistance, like what's going on in your market as a whole?
So far this year, out of all the properties I've sold, and I think I'm at about $3 million in sales this year so far, which isn't that great, but it started off really strong and has died off considerably. I've seen a ton of FHA and VA loans. I'm not seeing hardly any conventional loans with buyers
Really?
right now. That's just my experience. I mean, there's probably other agents out here that
Yeah.
are only seeing conventional. And FHA and VA obviously are great, but there is a lot more that goes into it. The inspections obviously are a lot more thorough and picky, and documentation is a little bit more
Yeah.
cumbersome, I guess.
So Teresa, some of the stuff that you've got on your side, I mean, obviously it's going to be in multiple states.
Yeah.
So we got a duplex in Ohio. So like if somebody was going to look at this property as an investor, what would they be expecting?
So this one's a good hold property. You can rent each side for $900 to $1,000, depending on the condition, and so that's $2,000 a month. So you beat the 1% rule with this property. So that's the name of the game in a rental.
So
And you can go to click on the View Property website. There should be a link.
okay.
Okay. And now you can see the go to the photos, and they'll be larger. There is no virtual tour. I'll have to talk to my assistant who built that out, but
It looks great though.
okay.
It's just called MTR though. You don't do midterm rentals, or is that part of the exit strategies that you use too?
So I do not do midterm rentals. It's just MTR. Although I'm not opposed to midterm rentals, I've always done pretty much the rent-to-owns agreement for deeds to provide home ownership opportunities and rentals. So I have some rentals and then some that have been sold via contract for deed.
My friend just told me average cost to build is 130 to 140 a square foot.
Oh, wow.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. I was talking with a developer yesterday, and or the day before, and we're at 400 at the beach per square foot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
400 per square foot at the beach. And that is luxury, of course, but that is a crazy difference.
And why do you think it's so much higher? Just because all the materials need to come from somewhere further away to get down there?
No, I mean, that's probably a big portion of it. You definitely have to have the logistics in the mix of it. The materials in Florida are required to be, everything has to be hurricane grade, elevated. So you also have still cost expense, and you have everything has to be cinder block all the way up. So
Wow.
that probably adds to the expense with the hurricane and the codes. Yeah.
I imagine the demand probably plays a part too. I know you guys are seeing an influx of people that have been moving there for the past several years as well, just like Nashville has.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely, we've seen a large increase of people. So, so we've definitely seen a large increase in people. The numbers, everybody's still sitting waiting for them to go down, but we do still have a lot of people coming in. There is still movement, so it's not stopped, but it has slowed. Of course, everyone's waiting for those rates to become to get down, become reasonable. Um, I
I'm
had
glad
one
you brought that
gentleman
up.
want to sell me. Go ahead.
No,
I'm
keep
sorry,
going.
what?
I, no, keep going. I'm glad you brought up the
Joel,
whole rate conversation.
you're
People are
cutting
waiting.
out.
Really?
I hear you good.
Yes, people are waiting.
Okay.
So what can you do about that, Joel? Can you help us out and get the rates lower? I still don't understand this whole idea of date the rate, and I don't understand this.
It's just a slogan to talk about God knows what. I mean, I don't like it. I never did like it, and it's been going on for 3 years, 2 or 3 years now, and rates are, you know, pretty flat. If you look at the last 2, 3 years, I mean, rates are roughly flat, and we're in an environment, not to go down, a political environment, but you know, the idea of cheap money and Fed lowering rates, and we're in a different environment right now, and there's, I think, going to be some cutting of government spending, which is a good thing and deflationary in all reality. But just in my opinion, I think we're going to see very, very similar type of rate environment for at least a year. And if they do go down, I don't think it's going to be substantial. Maybe you get, you know, rates to come down 1%, which, okay, that's great. But there's just a lot of push of business growth, and there are these current tax proposal, reinstituting some of the previous tax plan, which goes into kind of the development side of things and the infrastructure side of things with bonus depreciation and the whole accelerated depreciation standpoint and renewing those things. And if that happens, because I think right now the bonus depreciation percentage is at 40%, and this is the last year of the phase out. If they renew it for 2026, the proposal is it'd be retroactive to anything acquired in 2025. And so then you've got people that are developing, right, and acquiring and holding, that could have massive depreciation deductions. And, proposals of cutting taxes for certain people below $150,000 or $200,000, that's a complete what if. There's just a lot of push to increase production and jobs here in the United States that you're not going to have a lower rate environment. It's all going to be growth perspective. So what can you do to knock down doors and just go make shit happen and grow your business? Whether it be organic, on the phone. Teresa, I know you do a lot of online advertising. Chris, I know you do a lot of events and networking things. I think it's going to get back to a lot of those things. People just get to knock down doors and go make more money. And those are the people who are going to thrive in this type of economy, because rates coming down, who knows?
Yeah, I heard that they're not going to bring them down because they're not going to bring them down much because they're trying to get a handle on the sellers and the home values and the seller greed. But the sellers are pretty much holding on to that greed right now.
Yeah.
So they're like, nope, I'm not going to let it go. And they've got good rates. They could rent them out. So that's the challenge. I had someone the other day telling me, no, this is a great deal. You bought it for $300. It's a cash cow to you, but you want me to buy it for $800. How? Where do you see? I had to show him because he kept calling me every week, and I said, look, I'd be losing $2,000 every month out of pocket to get that property. I'm not going to do it. Do it.
Their most famous phrase right now is, I don't have to sell.
Yes.
It makes my blood curdle. Like, I don't have to sell right now. Okay, then why are we talking? Joel, you brought up something about the future and attacking new business. And I just left a meeting with a guy that I think would jump at the chance to get on here with you sometime. His name is Alex Gorman. He's also another lender, but he doesn't even talk about lending or doesn't ask for business. He's all about the AI. And, I have a fundraiser golf tournament coming up in October 9th for the Beat of Life that I'm a board member of, working with inmates, writing music to help them work through their trauma with songwriters from Nashville. And anyways, this guy in one day took the information that I had to start with. And I mean, what AI was able to build out in one day was unbelievable. My jaw was on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And
I want to dig into that for sure.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. And it's just growing, getting faster and faster. It's increasing in its technology every day. But he's got it. So basically this AI bot that he works with knows him, and he almost, it's almost like the thing is reading his mind and knows what he's going to ask for next. And it's just really detail oriented. It's truly amazing. I think that's the wave of the future. And if we're not all on board, we're going to get left behind.
100%. I wanted to give a quick shout out to a friend of mine that's out there viewing this, Marco Shiro. He's in Hawaii. He's got his YouTube channel, Financial Firefighter, and I've been on a number of his lives in the past, and he's big in the real estate community, and he owns a number of single family rentals in the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania. So that's like 5,000 miles away. And so he's just a good dude. He's an actual still active duty firefighter in Hawaii. So I want to give him a shout out. Thanks for stopping by. Wealth of knowledge. He's big in the one rental at a time community, which is run by Michael Zuber. And so you can see Mark's channel, 833 subscribers. He and I met, I think, in 2023. And one of the reasons why I want to bring this up is because, Theresa, you don't really have a whole lot of social media.
No, I'm very slack in it.
Right? But that's okay. That's part of the reason why we're here, right? Chris, you got stuff going on too. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I have a YouTube channel, yeah, but I'm horrible with online marketing and doing advertisements. So that's, we can all learn from each other. And I can attest that Mark, great dude. It's good to see you, brother. I got on one of his lives one night and had a great time, met some great guys, and very good dude. I agree.
Yeah, and Zuber, he's over 100,000 subscribers. Been doing this for a number of years. He doesn't edit any videos. Just put it out there and just let it shine.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be all, creative and all, polished up with the content. It's just doing it and creating the community. That's the most important thing. So what's up, Mark? Good to have you stop by.
I agree with you. There's more people that are not doing anything, and they're just relying off of their referrals and the business that they've had for so long. But I mean, I think that can only last so long too. I mean, eventually that's going to dry up as well. I'm never fooled to think that a client of mine is totally loyal to me, and if they don't, if they meet somebody else that is a little bit more savvy or a little bit more up to speed with modern technology, that they won't be swooned to go that direction.
Thanks, Mark.
She says, I try to edit Joel out of the video, but it's too much work. We don't want to do that. We got to let the boy shine.
The HMU hit me up, text up there. We were doing a live last year, and we were talking about cryptocurrency and this and that, and then somebody said HMU, hit me up, and I was like, Hamu? Is that a new crypto that I don't know of?
It's a new blockchain.
We just were, hit me up, bro. Are you serious? I'm like, dude, we're talking about crypto. Come on, man. So it's been like a running joke.
That's funny.
So
thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that with us.
Yeah. Mark's good at that. No, but so lead gen right now whether it be AI or pay-per-click and social media. Teresa, what's one thing that's working for you?
So, well, I've always liked the Facebook, but Meta is very difficult to work with. As a matter of fact, I've got a dispute with them right now, so that's on pause. Depends on, I've got some strategies for different revenues, and I thought of one for you too, Joel, but we'll talk about that offline. Um,
Right.
but SMS on real estate is pretty much really overdone. You get a whole lot of leads, but then they're like, well, I don't know, you made the offer, you called me. They're not very negotiable or receptive. And it is a whole lot of work to weed out the ones that are serious, the true motivated. So right now, um, I've got to pause on all of it. So I'm not doing much of it. I still have the platforms. I mean, I could still run the ads, Google or Facebook, and we still have the SMS up. But that one is more work. I think it's great for probably some different industries. But we all know the housing industry has really ran its course with that.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat, Teresa. I've pretty much stopped. I was doing cold calling daily. It was part of my daily routine, calling expireds and cancels and FISBOs, and with the do not call registry and all that kind of stuff that's going on, and they're taking that very serious here. I don't know if that's nationwide, but just the amount of time that it takes to whittle through all the phone numbers to find an actual good number, and then finding someone that doesn't just hang up on you or wants to have a genuine conversation. And when I do get a genuine conversation, again, the seller's numbers are so far out of whack that there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. So I've been thinking about doing this. I've seen more and more companies advertising that they will they'll give you leads and get paid at closing. And so I kind of like that, not having to invest money up front to get a lead, but.
Yeah, no, and exactly. And if they can deliver that, I did respond. My assistant loves to respond to those.
Yeah.
And he looks into every single one of them. And most of them have like, okay, well, here's the 15,000 that you have to pay, or 1,500 you have to pay up front. And, you know, I do have cold call centers as well. So I've got the cold call people. We pretty much we have run everything, but once again, all of the leads were coming in. For the amount of money being spent, I just did not see it as advantageous to keep up the marketing. Everyone is just way too overpriced. So as an agent, I've kind of switched my strategy right now. I definitely know I like to buy, and I know what I like to buy. And there are times where when you have a solid offer on the table, you can get and negotiate well with the seller. I'm seeing some success in that area. So I'm actually calling the buyers. I am a commercial agent also and an analyst. So, you analyze your rental properties, you analyze if you're going to buy them. So you can pretty much do the same thing on a commercial side. So I see some movement there. And I'm just calling the buyers because they do still want to buy. And it is hard because, you're seeing people with like a $200,000 NOI wanting $5 to $6 million for the property, and it makes no sense, But I am seeing some things that make sense. So that's the strategy that I've switched to, more so than the residential. Like I still buy residential. I still buy residential. I'm comfortable in there, and I love providing the individual home ownership opportunities for people. So I will probably stay residential in my own portfolio. But
we need to get you some Nashville properties in your portfolio. Get you to buy some tall and skinnies.
Oh. I like to buy I buy the really good deals. That's why I started training. I wanted more deals, so I started training wholesalers. And that way they'd work the way I want, and I was able to get quite a few properties and build up my portfolio. Now, of course, I couldn't buy anything, and then that's how I got into the wholesaling aspect of things. And then I had great wholesalers, and they wanted the center platform, which MTR Strategies did provide, and does provide for still few, but with just the number of deals that are coming out, I'm even looking for some. I mean, I've got some people, I would love another flip. Right now is not the really time to flip, so I'm looking for a good deal that I can convert. I can get on a flip on a hard money and then convert to a DSCR as a rental. But the numbers still have to make sense because I have to absorb all that finance cost.
All the carrying costs. Yep, absolutely.
Want to give a quick shout out to some people that are on here on YouTube: Flavo Flav, Old Guy, REI, Frank, and the West Coast. We've got 18 people on this stream. We got about 4 on YouTube. I think 12 on X. So if you're out there and you have any questions on unique deal structure, seller financing, seller carries, ground up construction, anything commercial, anything creative deal structure, let us know in the comments wherever you are, or just let us know who you are and where you're watching from. Got Teresa Torrez, who's in Clearwater, Florida, Chris Iannotti, who is in Nashville, also a Bears fan.
Why do you gotta keep bringing that up here?
But not a Cubs fan.
I am a Cubs fan, and they're doing very well. And I'm still sorry and sad that St. Louis doesn't have a football team anymore. I'm sorry. We're still mourning. Did you guys ever get your checks from that yet?
Yeah, it's just sitting somewhere in a Capitol building, just hanging out, collecting
Mayor's
dust,
office.
just chilling,
There you go.
like drinking some scissor or something. I don't know.
Scissor. Nice. Hey, do you have a hard time, Teresa, with the wholesalers that I have that contact me on a regular basis with deals? We have some companies here that are solely, that's all they do is wholesale deals. Yes. My boy Mark is a Bears fan. See, but do you have a hard time? Like, they send me these deals, and I try to explain to them, hey, listen, do you know how a flip formula works, or how this works? Like, where are you getting these numbers from? Because 9 times out of 10, if they get me out to a property where like the numbers make sense and the pictures look like, oh, okay, this could actually work, I get to the property and it's an absolute nightmare. So are you having a problem with that? Like, with deals just not making any sense and having to try to rein them in and teach them how to work?
You know what it is? It's not always. I mean, sometimes it's that the wholesaler doesn't know, but sometimes it's the wholesaler gets the contract anyways because there's not that many deals. So they're like, well, I'll get this and we'll see if we can get it done. And in a way, I feel like it gives a bad name for the wholesale industry because I'm certain there's a lot of canceled contracts. But I think that I know mine have brought quite a few also that just do not make sense, and some I say just go ahead and cancel right now. That doesn't make sense. And then some I'm like, well, sure, we'll go ahead and try it because we're not doing anything else on that side. So let's put it out. Maybe someone will get a conversion on it. I have a duplex in St. Pete up right now. If you call me, we can talk about a negotiation of the price, but it's out for $750, seller finance at 3.5%. The gross on it is like $53 a month for the rental income. So you can see and hear those numbers. It's in an up and coming area that's being developed and next to a really great area. So there's potential there. And that one's out. It's not necessarily a home run, but put it out. Let's see who wants to try it. And that's what a lot of wholesalers are doing. I think sometimes it's not necessarily that they don't know what they're doing. They're just like, well, hey, this is what we're getting. Let's put it out and see if someone will take it.
Which one is it?
Oh, that one? Yes. So scroll up. Oh, wait, no, scroll down. I think I saw it starting to come. This one right here, that one, the
High-flex.
Mm-hmm.
Those numbers sound like it would cash flow pretty decent, at least
It would.
couple of them.
Yeah, it definitely would. The it's got a 4-year balloon, and that's where People are concerned with the rates. Are the rates going to hold? So that's been some of the challenge, is that 4-year balloon. They want a longer term, but the seller has a balloon, so there's
What,
not.
what are they asking for an entry fee on that, Teresa?
He would like as much of a deposit. I think at the 745, if 3.5%, he was asking for 80,000. But that is negotiable. In real estate, everything is negotiable, and our sellers always know what we are doing. So I have no problem going back and presenting an offer. He did decline a $40,000 down.
So what are the rents on this one, you said?
53.
Okay. What's the monthly payment?
The monthly payment, I think if you click on the website, I have a pro forma, and go to the docs page.
Okay. This is
And
fun.
then, scroll down. Okay, look at the pro forma.
Talking about deals on air. This is okay. This is
That's
fun.
right,
That's great.
Yeah, and I like to provide as much information as I can on these, and then everyone can decide if they're going to work or not.
Yeah, mortgage right here, 35.59. Okay.
Yeah, and scroll down. Let's scroll down to see what my assumption was on that mortgage. I think this one was actually from the higher one. We have a much better. He lowered the interest rate for us. So if you gave the larger down, you'd have better cash flow.
Is this property free and clear, or is there an existing note on it?
There is. It's a wrap. This one's a wrap.
Can you explain? I'm not that familiar with that. What does that mean?
So if you're an investor and you have a property, right, and you have a mortgage on it, whether you bought it subject to or not, and you're going to sell it at, let's just say, not on this one because I don't want to disclose on air the total details of this deal, but let's just say that I have a property with $100,000 mortgage on it, right? And then I'm going to sell it for $250, and I'm going to wrap everything. So that means I'm just wrapping the mortgage that I have. So whether my interest is 4% on that 100,000, well, then I'm super happy. I'm making great cash flow and great profit. Even if it's 7%, I'll still recover, because even if I can give them a 6%, I'm 6% on 250. Do you see what I mean? So a hybrid is where you will take something subject to and then have a separate seller finance note. And when you do a separate seller finance note, you will actually save money that way, as opposed to buying a wrap as an investor. Pretty much investors, I don't buy wraps unless it's still a really good deal. But I'm not opposed to it if it's something I really, really want. But I would prefer a subject to and a seller finance. So it's more or less a hybrid instead of a wrap, which means you'll have two notes. You take care of the sub 2 one, and then you're paying the seller.
Okay.
You'll save money because instead of paying the interest on the whole amount, your payments are, you're going to make that payments to them, and then you're going to have a payment separate to the seller.
So it's usually
But your interest is not charged. Your interest is not charged on the whole amount.
That's usually for the down payment, seller finance portion when you're doing a hybrid like that, right? Is that what you see? Is when
I'm sorry, what was it? What was the question?
when the seller will accept a seller finance deal or a seller finance note on the down payment, usually, or on a portion of the purchase, right? So, like,
Right.
if they want 100,000 down, they're willing to finance a portion of that down payment to get you into the deal.
Right, so some of them, yes. If it's if it's subject to, so let's say that Sam owns a house and he owes $100,000 on it, but it is worth 175. Now you want it, or 200, and you make him an offer for 175, and he says, and you say, okay, well, I'll make the payments to your mortgage for you. And he says, okay, yeah, because I don't want to have to mess with this at all. So I'm going to make the payments for you. And then he's got basically 75,000 in equity, but I'm only going to give you, I'm going to give you 25,000 down, right? And right now, there's a lot of people trying to get seller finance deals with 20,000 down. Let me tell you what, it's not easy. Most of your sellers want more than that also right now. So someone keeps calling everybody and saying, hey, I'll give you 20,000 down. Anyways, but for this price point, that is very reasonable. If you're buying a property at 175, 25,000 down is actually very reasonable. So uh, you then give him 25,000. That means he's going to finance 50,000 for you. So now you're paying the mortgage, the subject to, and you are paying the payment to him of the 50,000 on an amortized schedule. And as long as both those payments make sense under the rent, you're still good.
Yeah, it'd have to be a pretty.
Did that make sense?
Did.
So that's a hybrid where you're doing a subject to, but you also have a seller finance.
Awesome.
Yeah. The only thing your down determines is, the amount you're going to finance overall, and if your seller is going to take it or not.
Yeah, we try to. The buyers that I have that buy sub-2 deals for me, they usually tell me they're either capping out at 10 or 15% of the purchase price that they will use as a down payment. That's kind of their gauge.
10%, yeah. Mm-hmm. No, and 100%, you can, and it just depends on the buyer and what you have set apart to buy those. I've bought quite a few, and it's of course big chunks of money out, and little of it comes back. So after you buy so many, you need to sell one to get the cash to buy some more. I've
Yep.
done that.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
But that's the
So,
bit of the sub-2 deal is you've got the title in your name, and you can do those things, right? Compared
yes,
to
yes.
like a contract for deed situation or a lease option situation, like you can't really do that as the investor.
Exactly. And some investors prefer the lease option because it actually has less responsibility for them. And you can run a lease option where you, when you're using it to acquire, where you cover a certain of repairs up to a certain dollar amount. Like say, okay, look, I'll do 3,000 in repairs, up to 3,000 in repairs. Anything beyond that is actually the owner's responsibility. And that's the reason why a lot of investors still do like to acquire with rent to own. With a lease option because it's less risk on them. But the first time I tried to do a lease option, I did it. It was an older lady, a wonderful, very sweet, awesome older lady. And my wholesaler, because I buy a lot where I don't see, because I buy a lot of out-of-state properties. And this one was in Virginia, and my wholesaler did not tell me that there was a roach infestation or that the back of the house was falling off. The cameras, the pictures, the seller didn't tell me. And she says, oh, yeah, he did it. So I had already signed the contract, of course. I sent my contractor out. Now, I had not exchanged any money at this point. And I sent my contractor out, and he's like, oh, you got this roach infestation, and you've got this. So I switched it over to an agreement for deed with joint conveyance, which that's my special secret thing. You'll have to ask me about that offline. And but I switched it over to that. Then because she could not afford to. She was actually trying to get $1,000 for her property, and that was it. But the rehab just did not make sense. So we ended up holding on to it for 3 years, and then we were able to sell it and make some nice money. But we had to do the hold strategy. Otherwise, it just didn't make sense. I ended up putting $35,000 in on the rehab. So
Wow.
yeah, because the back porch was falling off, which pulled off the back section of the house. It was just a big old mess, a big old mess. But it ended up working out. We just had to hold on to it for a little while. And with that, she got no money. I ended up switching the agreement, like I said, for the contract for deed, where my rehab counted as my deposit. And that was it. So
Very
yeah, I'll
solid.
switch up a contract all day. I'll switch up the contract. I mean, we'll do whatever it takes to make it work.
That's very savvy. There needs to be more agents like you in the world, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was an investor before I was an agent. So
There you go.
so that's the reason why, I was
Okay.
an investor first, and then I got my license to help accommodate for all this anti-wholesale business.
That's something that really needs to be discussed too. I feel like not just sub two, but also wholesaling, that all the negativity surrounding the subject. I feel like I go back and forth. Should a wholesaler be licensed or should they? A part of me feels like they should, right? Like they should know the ethics behind it and contracts and stuff like that. But just automatic. I do a lot of novations to
Hmm.
where a wholesaler will get a property under contract that needs repairs. I will help them find the contractors to do the work that needs to be done. I'll put it on the market and contractors get paid at closing. But some associations in Tennessee, they refuse to do those deals. They say that it's illegal to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't understand why, because it's helping out a seller, it's helping out a buyer. I'm getting paid, another agent's getting paid, title companies, inspectors, everyone's getting paid. It's
Exactly.
is generating income for a lot of people. So
I
I
believe
wrote,
that the wholesaler should not have to be licensed. I mean, I would love to start a wholesaler association, a wholesale association nationwide. And I believe that we could have ethics in there. 100%. The reason I don't necessarily believe that so what this is going to do, either way, it'll work out because more agents are going to become aware of how to do things differently. Okay. So as the agents become more aware and they study and learn, they'll know how to do things differently. They can step in. Wholesalers will become licensed, which means there's instantly going to be more agents who know the different strategies and how to market for it and how to serve investors. Because we used to say, I've told many people, don't ever use an agent if you're doing investment property because you're going to lose money every time. Because technically, the agent mentality is the agent mindset is different. I go to a listing agreement, right? My goal is to tell you the very top dollar I can get for your house so I can get the listing. As a wholesaler, they have to blend both the expectation of the investor and just tell the buyer, hey, look, if you want an investor to move, there's got to be the motivation, and this is what it's going to be. And
mhm.
then they either take it or they don't take it. Um, if for an agent, I believe fully that they are supposed to represent one party or the other. And most of the time in a wholesale transaction, it is a representation of the transaction. So I'd often say that I do not represent either party, I represent the transaction. My goal is a beneficial, transparent, beneficial to all parties transaction. So that's what our goal was every time. But it's not an offering of representation. Whereas an agent is licensed, they offer a representation. That means that I have your back. Now, there's not one party, buyer or seller, who I do not consider, and I feel like I always make sure to keep everyone's back to where everyone wins. So, best interest. But not everyone can do that. Not everyone can say, all right, look, I'm going to take everybody's best interest in mind, and then we're going to make this work. A lot of people just get tunnel visioned, and they're either the buyer's agent or the seller's agent. And I mean, you've had to talk with some of those agents. I've had to talk with some of those agents, and goodness gracious, don't you feel like you're hitting your head against the wall?
Yes.
Um, I mean, I'm like, they want you to sell their house. How much harder do you have to make this? It really drives me crazy. There's a lot of agents that don't know real estate. There's a lot of wholesalers that don't know real estate as well. I mean, that is the first entry point, but they are still studying, learning, eager, calling mentors. Even though I've rescued some they from bad mentors, they're 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 definitely out there too.
Yeah.
So, and no matter what field it is, I feel like there is good and bad. I feel like there's lanes. We wholesaled a property that had a lawnmower in the living room. Not many agents would say, "Oh yeah, I'll take that listing."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh yeah, let me list that." Right?
Right.
Where's the agent to do of like, here's the things you need to fix before you go on market, right? People don't want that, which is why they do need an alternative, and I feel like the wholesaler provides that alternative. And I wish all wholesalers were great. I know that everyone that works for me is, and I've met a lot of fabulous ones. So I definitely do not, I feel that everyone should be allowed their lane. And equitable title, and all these states taking away equitable title rights and stuff, they're trying to change contractual law. And by contractual law, we had equitable title rights. And I've seen some crazy, crazy things that agents are doing. And I reported them too, even when I didn't have a license. I was wholesaling one in Colorado. When we did the title search, we found that an agent, a real estate agency, gave them $1,000 and then put a 40-year listing agreement recorded on their property.
Wow.
For 3 years, I mean, for 40 years at 3%, they would get market value, and they had in the contract market value. So when we pulled the title, they didn't want, and they would not sign the release. They wanted 3% of the aftermarket value. And I said, no, your contract says market value. And they were giving us a hard time. They were like, no, we're not going to sign the release. So I did an email, and we got the senator. We got the senator, the governor, and the Real Estate Association Commission on there. And I attached all the contracts, and I attached all the pictures. And I said, there's no way this property needs $80,000 in repair. There is no way that that market is, that the value is that market value you're wanting. They were taking all the money from the seller. I mean, that is not fair. In Orlando, I even saw agents, we pulled some deeds, and agents were having sellers sign over deed right. I had one, she signed over 70% deed right. Who
Wow.
does that?
Wow.
Yeah. So don't try to tell me that all agents are ethical either. You know, I mean, we all try to be, but it's the people. People count. So if you're going to work with someone, pick them honest. If you're going to work with a wholesaler, work with a wholesaler. Pick one you like, who you believe is going to do the job. Make them show you if they're going to sell, you know, uh, they should be able to show you their buying and how they do it. Any one of my sellers can actually go on, and I'll send them the website even, and I'll say, hey, let me know if you want to make any changes. And they do,
Yeah.
so that way they know exactly what's going on. And sometimes even if I want it, like that duplex, I want that duplex in Ohio, I've got to complete my due diligence. I just have a very busy schedule, so I'm slow at it. So as not to hold them up, I put it out for assignment. That way it's beneficial. I have the contract, but my seller doesn't actually feel tied up. She knows that I want it. I've explained, hey, I take a bit in my due diligence because, well, I'm very busy. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
analyzing properties for other people too. So
Transparency
that's
and
it.
integrity is everything in this business. And I say it till I'm blue in the face. I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. I argued with another agent that was not very ethical. And I said, you are part of the reason why people are looking at this industry, and some of us professionals is like used car salesmen.
Hmm.
You're making us all look bad.
Absolutely.
So that's something I
And
take
the
very seriously as well.
Yeah, and how many calls did I make where they're like, yeah, as long as you're not an agent, then I'll work with you. As long as you're not an agent, I'll work with you. So if the customer and the consumer is saying that they want non-licensed individuals, then why is the regulation saying no? You can't pick who sells your house. You have to go with a licensed individual. And even though I believe that the license is important, I have it so in Florida. So I definitely believe that it's good and it's valuable. But there's a time in a group, a clientele that doesn't want that. They don't want that, but they still need the service. So, and all you have to do is be able to say, yeah, no, I'm not an agent. Don't worry. I'm not an agent. I'm not licensed. Don't worry. You say that and they'll like you. They'll talk to you.
It's
If
amazing.
once you say, oh, I have a license, and now, and that was a challenge after I got my license. It was, oh, everyone's like, oh, you got to disclose you have a license. You got to disclose you have a license. And I'm talking to people in other states. And I've actually had to disclose. So I disclosed, okay, yeah, I do have license, not in this state, but in Florida. I'm looking to buy this one for myself. And they're like, oh, I don't deal with anybody who's licensed. Click.
Crazy. It's
We
crazy.
even were getting along in a good conversation, but some people, they hear, oh, you have a license? You're like, no, forget it.
Yeah.
So,
I try to dance that line and tell them, yes, technically I do have a license, but I'm an investor before I'm anything else. And I'm calling you as an investor. I'm not calling you as a real estate agent. Sometimes I'll get them to stay on the phone, but yeah, sometimes it's click. We got some questions, Joel.
Oh shoot, I'm dropping on the ball here. Okay. I'm sharing some photos on socials and blah blah blah
Mark is asking if we think Section 8 will be going away.
blah. The one that I saw was, is there a height requirement? Can I sit out?
Is there a height requirement for Section 8?
oh, is there a weight limit?
Well, the Section 8 thing, I think I saw that there was some preliminary talk of putting time frame limits on people who are using it for a couple years. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I don't know much. I don't know enough about the program.
We could open up a whole can of worms.
Yeah,
So,
and I've got some Section 8 vouchers, and there's been no indication now on the government side what the government's going to do, if they're going to keep them. I mean, I really can't say and speak on that, but we've, depends on every individual situation. I mean, I've got people that have been on them for years, um, and. But I see a lot more now, they're doing the voucher systems because the housing has gone so high that you might have a voucher for someone who's only got a voucher for 800. That means that they can cover everything else just at that known housing market. And like, for example, on that triplex we were looking at, the voucher for that, the rental market would have that, each one of those renting at like 15, 16, 1,800 for the 2-bedroom, 1,500 for the 1-bedroom. Except in the Section 8 voucher, you can actually get 1,800 for the 1-bedroom, and you can get up to 2,000 for the 2 bedrooms, which definitely increases your gross potential.
yeah, absolutely. And I do think the Section 8, its intention, what it was made for, what it was built for, is necessary and it makes sense. But I do think it shouldn't be a permanent solution. And just to dip my toe in this water a little bit, do you know that in Section 8 that the father cannot be in the home with the mother and the child? Like, it can't be husband and wife with their child on Section 8 living in the same home. And I've never understood why that was a thing. They were almost incentivizing a father not being present in the home. But like I said, dipping my toe into water that I probably don't want to tread too deep into, but
I
it needs some work. Let's just say that.
I agree. It does need some work. It definitely needs some work.
Yeah.
The whole system.
Well, want to just give a quick shout out for everyone who's stopping by here. Lane 5 ready. This is Andy. Andy, from Ohio. Okay. Cool. That's where that duplex was, right? Ohio.
The duplex,
The one that we
yes.
said earlier? Yeah.
Yep, Logan, Ohio.
Yeah. If you guys have any specific deal structure questions, deals or financing or contract structures, let us know in the comments. Now's the time to ask. Go ask it ASAP.
Or forever hold your peace.
Right. The idea of getting into a deal with little money out of pocket, that's been a big topic I've been seeing from some investors out there. And Teresa, you and I have looked at some of those types of conversations, and I had that mobile home park listing up for a second, because that was one of the deals that you and I had worked through and trying to get into it with little money out of pocket. So that deal would have had transactional funding involved.
Correct.
Do you want to just take a second and kind of walk us through the nuts and bolts of that deal?
Yes. So Joel and I worked very hard together. Joel, we've got a lender that agreed to the biggest key in this transaction, the biggest success, actually, Joel, was on your part, getting the lender that did not require a personal guarantor from our transactional funding. We structure it in such a way that we can bypass that by ownership right, new company formation, and the transactional funder will charge the 6% on what they lend, but the seller carry is separate. That is a separate thing. So that way it looks as though the company is buying in, and when they are paid off at closing, the transactional funder comes off.
So you just add the
I
transactional
don't want to
funder.
I don't want to just give away all of our secrets, though. I
Yeah.
don't know on air. I don't know who's watching. I mean, I don't. You know what? If it's recorded and then we get in trouble with that.
If you're out there, secrets are being dropped right here.
Yes.
Save this. Save it.
Just ask.
Yes,
We'll just add
the
you to our
benefit-
LLC.
Yeah, so there's the benefit to that one is the no money out of pocket or the very little money out of pocket compared before the deal. The challenges are your seller has to carry at least 30 to 40%. The the downside is that you end up paying more for the property as well with doing it that way because you have on that 6% transactional funding. But once again, you're not coming out of pocket, so you could just be stepping into cash flow because the debt still has to get serviced in these types of transactions as well.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I brought up before that I didn't really dig back into is the exit strategy and, the ability to increase rents, maybe improve the property somehow, some way. I mean, you got to have an exit strategy in these types of deals in a certain time frame. And I think one of the people that we were looking at, they had a couple of properties that hadn't sold yet. And so I think their exit strategy would have been, okay, when they see a couple of properties, when they sell, then we can, creatively attack the financing to restructure in the future.
And the way I try to write those up is I try to get always a very base minimum of 5 years on my minimums. But if I can get a seller to go all the way, or at least 10 to 15, because I let them know it's the 10 to 15 mark it's a 15-year on an amortization loan that your principal and your interest payment are about equal. They're starting to equal out in 15 years. So a lot of times when I show them what they're going to get if they go the longer term, then they will go the longer term. And we always try to get that. And then the exit strategy is always going to be, yes, value add, or if it's a rental, because I can buy these, you can use the same formula on rental as long as it's cash flowing, servicing the debt and then still cash flowing. So on a regular rental, residential, it'll still work, but generally not with the transactional funder. But it can actually still work because we put it in a company and then still do the DSCR. So Joel, we could still make that happen too. But you don't want your price to be that over high. Property still has to appraise. You want to service the debt, and then you can get in on it. Just start taking the cash flow.
We were just talking the other day about co-living as an exit strategy here, and that's what we're seeing a lot of. Is I'm getting subject to deals with no balloons, and we're doing co-living, renting out by the room, which is maximizing our cash flow and also providing a service for affordable housing. Our friend from Ohio has a question about his 26-year-old son has 2 years left of vet school and wanting to house hack in the next couple of years, going to work at a clinic to start, and will have a student loan. Suggestions. House hacking is smart, definitely.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and buy. I'd buy either a duplex or a single family if he doesn't have I don't know. Does he have a house where he's going to buy a clinic, or where he's going to school? Where is he staying? But even if you're trying to get in, buying that first property, even if it's, it's not your planned forever home, I don't like my rentals personally to be any larger than 1,500 square foot. Because then the turnover is too high. So you still think about all those pieces, all those elements. You start getting a home, buying the houses. He lives in it, fixes it up, buy a duplex, rent out the other side. It all just depends on a little bit of what the strategy is. And I didn't really have anything other than the house hack, which I'm thinking that just, I'm old school, so I apologize for being ignorant, guys. I do not know exactly what you mean by the house hack. I'm thinking that means you want to get in. He wants to get in on the on the real estate rental side is what I'm thinking.
What they're talking about, a house hack would be basically renting out some other space in the house, like renting out the other rooms
Oh, the pad split.
to take care of the mortgage. And I don't even think even necessarily a pad split, but yeah, pad split is growing like crazy. But yeah, basically letting other people live in the house to take care of the mortgage and the bills, so you can live
Yep.
free.
Yeah,
Which
now
is
one recommendation, yeah, it's actually very, very smart. If you have just a house and not a duplex and you still want to bring that in, a lot of people are doing that. It's very recommended that you write down house rules for common space though. Same rules for pad split, because even if it's yourself living there, that way it's already known and documented. Pad split also, I do know someone, individual who got in trouble because the one tenant was complaining about the other tenant in a pad split and what they were doing in the common space, but they did not have a good set of house rules and expectations.
Yeah,
And
for our
just-
properties, we write those expectations and those rules right in our lease agreement. So
Yep.
it's laid out
So
there, and
even-
it's subject to the terms of the lease.
Absolutely, absolutely. So even if you're doing the room and he's going to live there, I still recommend 100% having house rules.
Absolutely.
Want to give a shout out to Paul Rink, who's house hacker in Ohio. I forget what city, but he's been buying properties every couple of years, in like the 150, 160, 170 range. So very affordable prices. Again, I don't think it's like a big city. It's like on the exterior of a city. And I'll drop his Instagram handle. That's just somebody to check out his profile. But my biggest thing on house hacking, because again, you can kind of lead in and tie it to, okay, buy a fourplex or a duplex, live in one side, rent out the others, and then rinse and repeat. If you do it with an FHA loan, right? Let's just say you buy a quadplex, shotgun style, 800 square foot, 1 bed, 1 bath, and then you live there for a year or two, save up, buy the next one. Maybe you buy a duplex that's a 2 bed, 1 bath, that's bigger. That would be considered an upgrade. And as long as you have the ability to qualify, have the cash for down payment, and are able to fit into the guidelines, if you do a conventional loan, I can use leases on the departure residence for the previous quadplex to help with offsetting that payment. On FHA, I can't use leases to offset that departure residence. I have to have tax returns. So you want to start with FHA, and then once you get into conventional, say 5% down, you can do a duplex, for example, and the leases can help you qualify. And then from there, maybe you fit into a single family detached home as a third one. That's a strategy that I've seen a number of people in my network go down the path. And especially, the one person I have in mind is in their early 20s, and they're 26 now. And like you were saying, Teresa, before, that there's been so much multi-family apartment complexes that have been constructed in the last 4 years, less residential homes being constructed. There's just a massive amount of demand for rent, on the grand scheme of things. So if you're, 26, and let's just say this kid played baseball, he's got a bunch of baseball friends from college, and young and still in school, he's got a pretty strong demand for renters in that area with his network. And so he had, confidence to be able to do it, making decent money. But that demand for rent was strong in his area, so he was just able to just, attack it and go make things happen. So having the right mindset, being able to really focus on increasing income, and to be able to generate the income to give you that cushion. Because again, everybody on this call, everybody here is an investor. You got to plan for the what if, the BS that happens. It's going to happen at some point in time.
Yeah. So let me just ask to clarify for my knowledge. Is house hack when you live in the house and you rent out the other rooms? Is that the difference between, and pad splits when you own the house and you rent out all the rooms to somebody else, but you don't live there?
I think when we use the term pad split, which is a brand, which is a specific company that does the property management side, they really encourage you to build out like build bedrooms in the living room, build bedrooms in the garages. You know, I call it co-living when you have month-to-month leases. You know, Pad Split, they pay weekly. What we do is we have a month-to-month lease that has the rules and guidelines in the month-to-month lease in there. And I think the only difference between a house hack is first-time home buyer buys a house and he rents out spare bedrooms to help offset his costs. So they're all in the same vein. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, house hack is just renting out some rooms to help offset your costs. And Pad Split is a brand that maximizes. You can cram as many people in there as possible. Um, they pay weekly. They do the background checks. They do the property management aspect of it and the marketing to find you your tenants. Where like I just created my own property management company, used Facebook Marketplace to find my tenants, built out a month-to-month lease with all the rules and expectations, and we put keypads on their doors. So like if they don't pay rent, they just can't get in the room until they pay.
Nice.
I would
Nice.
suggest to Lane 5 Ready though. He's talking about issues getting a loan with a student loan. That's why we're here. We're talking about creative finance, brother. Talking about being able to get a loan subject to. Sorry, Joel. But if you can't get a loan, like buying a property subject to is perfect for that kind of scenario. Their debt to income is out of whack and they can't get a loan, and they can invest in a property to make more money so that they can qualify for a loan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If they
Yeah.
have the money, you can always also co-sign the note, right, Joel? He can always co-sign and stay on the deed. Stay on the deed.
You, you can, if it's a single family property, for example, and you co-sign, then you can do it with say a 5%, 3% down. If it's multifamily, you're going to be deferring to your
30.
25% down guidelines with the co-signer. So multifamily co-signers, there's a little bit of a roadblock there.
So 1 to 4 units doesn't qualify?
Two to four, your co-signer is not going to allow you to do the low down payment, like a 3.5% down FHA. We're not going to be able to do that, unfortunately.
I didn't know that.
But
Yeah.
you have a different, you could still do the conventional with like a 5% down with the co-signer.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah. I'm sorry.
You
I-
can you can still do a 5% down conventional with a co-signer?
No, I don't believe so on a conventional. I'll have to triple check guidelines, but I don't believe so. But one of the things about multi-unit, the other rents you can use for income qualifying, conventional is more lenient on student loans than FHA. FHA, you're using a 0.5% of the total balance. So multiply, let's just say it's a $50,000 student loan balance, times that by 0.005. So a qualifying payment, what is that, 250? I think is what the number would be your qualifying payment on the back end. But the thing about it is that FHA, I mean, your back end debt to income ratio is pretty flexible. So you want your mortgage to be under 45% of the gross income. Your back end ratio can go up to 56.99. So it's the most flexible guideline. Conventional, if you have your student loans deferred, there's a little bit of gray area, and an income-based repayment schedule. If that's really, really low, we can actually use that for a qualifying payment. So the student loans, obviously, if it's a big number, can come into play. But you know, one of the things that is really big right now is on the lending side is doing a soft pull, because the credit bureaus sell the data. So if we were going to pull credit on somebody and do a full tri-merge, as a borrower, you're going to get probably 30 phone calls from other lenders that are buying that data. It's called a trigger lead. So people that are wanting to plan in advance, people will do a soft pull on it, get a snapshot of the credit history, and can do all the same things and see what the DTI is on qualifying. So just
There was a lot of conversation about those trigger leads and about that information not being sold. Is that right? Like it was a hot topic.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah.
maybe?
There's stuff in legislation that's trying to get pushed through from a national standpoint. It's just, I don't know where the latest is, but yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, Dylan worded it perfect here in the chat. He said, "House hack is the activity, Pad Split is a platform, or like I said,
Oh.
a company.
Yeah.
Co-living is the exit strategy if you need a title for it. You know." So
Excellent.
yeah,
Thank
Dylan,
you.
that was good. Thank you.
You guys educated me today because I didn't know.
And you, me. So that's great. That's what it's all about.
That's right. That's right. I've thought about it. I just have never done it. I've never done it or looked into it because there's always so many families that are applying.
It's definitely
And
great for upping your cash flow. Like if you have a sub-2 deal that the PITI is pretty high, but they've got a good
mhm.
rate, it's good for that. But you definitely need to screen the tenants really well because I have 5 women living together and 2 of them started barking at each other, and I mean they're calling me to try to referee their arguments, and that's not what I signed up for. So we lost 2 tenants at one time unexpectedly, and so I mean that dips right into your cash flow if you don't have a pipeline of tenants ready to go. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely
And
interesting and it's growing.
I wonder, you know what I wonder about that though? I'm wondering about the zoning
Mhm.
because you know a lot of counties don't allow short-term rental if they're renting them by the week. And also they're turning a single family if they're putting rooms in the living room and all that. They're kind of turning a multifamily into an apartment and the zoning is different for that. So I wonder if they're going to have a problem with some of that later
I,
on.
I think there's 2 things on that subject. One is this is a work around the STR issue. Um,
Mhm.
but like how long is it going to take before they catch on and they start making it an issue, right? And start putting uh, the same kind of regulations on that. I did hear a story about a fire happened in one of these pad splits. And when the fire department came in and saw that there was as many people living there as there was a violation, and they shut them down. You know, it was a big deal. But also
Oh,
at the
wow.
same time, there's a guy I know in New York that is like filing a petition in New York State for saying like we own our properties. You cannot dictate to us what we can do with our properties, whether it's short-term rental or we rent out rooms. Like we own the property, you know. And I think there's some truth to that. And I think it's something that should probably be discussed nationwide. Here in Nashville, it's bad. They have separate office that goes to properties to check to see if you are doing short-term rentals out of your property without the right permits and permissions.
Right,
Real
yeah.
quick, Chris, I dropped your Instagram handle in here.
Thank
So
you.
anybody out there, check him out. I'm not sure if Dylan Pettijohn is still on. Lane, Andy, if you've got your a YouTube channel or a platform that you want us to follow, please put it in the chat because this is one of the things that I want to keep talking about is supporting each other, supporting the community, helping each other gain traction with our own individual platforms. I'm not sure if Mark Oshiro, Financial Fighter, is still on here, but that's one of the things that he's really good about is anybody that comes on is sharing and supporting each other, following each other, and really talking about the process of the people that are scared or hesitant on putting anything out there on social media to start their channel and put it out there that your voice, your experience, it matters. And old guy REI is somebody that was on here earlier, and I remember when he started his channel from literally zero, and I don't know where he's at on his YouTube. I should have dropped it in here, but they do weekly, bi-weekly webinars and lives together internally. They talk about shop and just hold each other accountable. They do all that kind of stuff. So um, Dylan says I'm on. Okay. So Dylan, do you have a handle, a link? Is that at Lane 5? Is that an Instagram handle? I'm not sure, but if you have a link, throw it down here. And then if you're following on YouTube, give it a subscribe. If you're on X, give me a follow. Would appreciate that. Teresa, I don't have. Do you have a link you want to throw in or no? Maybe next time.
Um, oh, Instagram, Realtor 33, I think. But I apologize. I've got to get someone to do that off for me because I don't know.
Realtor
Um,
33.
but I did put it on my assistant helped me put it on my links. So I just need to go ahead and have them do all of the social media stuff.
Okay, I found you. I don't
You
even
found
follow
me?
you.
Follow me! Yay!
No,
Oh, you
no,
were already following me?
no. Now you're at 40.
Oh, well, follow me now.
There are two kinds of people.
I'll try to get on
Only
and
I
put
can.
something on. Just ask me a question every now and then. I'll go on and answer. How's
Okay.
that? Can you do
Okay.
that on there? Does it do that? I never go on Instagram. I apologize.
Oh yeah. Okay. Mark says okay.
I do an analysis and everything, so I'm usually up late just crunching numbers, so I don't have time to go on social media.
All right.
You've got a killer website. You don't need Instagram. Your website is really cool.
Well, you need to get more people to it, though. Yeah, all that analysis is
I do.
badass, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Okay, Dylan, what is your channel that I can share? And then okay, at Lane 5. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's see. This is IG, I think, at Lane 5. Did that pop up? Oh, I don't know. But yeah, one of the cool things about this is that this video is going to go to several platforms. On YouTube, I can take this link and then put it into, say, Opus Clips, cut it up into short reels, and edit them, use AI, and then post them.
Okay, make sure you use a filter.
And the biggest thing that I would say too is just to like just putting it out there, staying consistent. You know, people, I get this all the time from Facebook especially, that, yeah, I've been watching your stuff and I figured out to give you a call about XYZ. It's like, well, bro, you don't comment, you don't like, you don't share, you don't nothing, but you're seeing it, and that's 9/10 of the battle. So just putting it out there, it's still worth it. Okay.
I'll try to get that. I'll
Let's
get
see the
better.
links for Dylan and Frank. Okay, Mark, you did. I don't know how to get this into this from my phone and to here though.
I was telling Joel the other day, Teresa, that I went to a concert a couple months ago and was doing my normal thing, networking and talking to people. And there was a considerable amount of people that recognized me and knew who I was that I didn't know. And they claimed it was, yeah, you're that real estate guy. And I really don't even do that much online marketing or social media marketing. I do some, but it was just a testament to me. Let me know, like, wow, man, like it's working. You should keep it up. It didn't turn into dollars, but I mean, you got to think about overall, just having your face out there, like it does help, you know.
Yeah. No, you guys are right. I do need to do more of that. I've always been like the person behind the scenes, you know, who people call and just ask. So generally, everyone does have to go through someone to get to me. I don't know why that is, but it seems to be that way. But now I'm out.
Well,
People see me.
hopefully I get my friend Alex on here with us sometime, and you can listen to him talk about what he knows about AI and how AI can create your whole month, a whole calendar of social media content for you. And
Yeah.
you have it automated. You do it all in one day, and you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the month.
You know, I actually think I have that software because I got it, and that's why I started the Instagram channel. I just haven't done anything.
Everyone has it. It's free. That's the crazy part too, is it's free. It doesn't cost
Oh,
anything.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know
Yes.
You
about
need to dig into that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be good info for everybody, I think.
yeah, exactly. Get them on, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing this every week. And on my side, this is the YouTube channel for my lending side of things. My podcast, Strive for 25, increase income, save 25%, have options to invest. That's where I met Mark and in that lane. And so that's really more about income streams, you know, sharing stories of entrepreneurs and businesses and different things like that to be able to generate more income. And this channel is really going to be strategies and talking shop on investing specifically in real estate and you know, sharing those knowledge.
Yes.
Lots of knowledges. But yeah, so stay tuned. Every Tuesday we're going to be doing this. Any other last thoughts?
No, I just want to say thanks for having me. And Teresa, it's been nice talking to you as well. And just,
Nice talking with you.
the only message, if we could sum up the entire conversation we've had over the last almost 2 hours, is open your mind up to the opportunities that are out there and the possibilities that exist that we might not think are actually manageable or possible. Find someone that knows what they're talking about and ask, and we'll be more than happy to help.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Joel. Thank you for inviting me. Chris, it was so nice to meet and get to talk with you. And hopefully we can help each other out and do a lot of work together.
Okay. One thing I want to share. I just shared the YouTube for Strive 25, but one of the things that I just feel like I need to share. So Teresa and I, we met through a phone call or a mailer. I forget what it was back in like 2012 on a VA Streamline loan. And long story short, we had done a number of transactions together all over the phone. And then I think it was 2016, we actually got a chance to meet in person. And I did a lot of business in the DC market, so I did a couple events out there. Did an event in North Carolina, then did an event in Virginia Beach. I think it was Virginia. Were you in Virginia Beach at that time?
It was North Carolina at that time.
Well, Wilmington. Yeah, it was North Carolina. So we got a chance to meet face to face.
And then we came to St. Louis one time too. Remember?
Yeah.
We came to St. Louis and went to
Cardinals game.
Cardinals game. That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I gave you a really hard time. I still laugh about that a little bit. But Joel had to work hard. He had to work really hard because my husband always calls all the mailers, and actually his captain had told him about you and gave him your number. So I don't know if it was from one of the mailers, but his captain actually gave his number. And then he said, no, this guy is legit. This guy gets it done. I was like, no, no. And he said, well, just talk to him because my captain gave him to me. I said, okay. And I did. I gave Joel a really hard time, but he was awesome and amazing. And I think we've done over 16 of my personal ones, and then many, many, many more others.
Yeah. And just that kind of, because Coast Guard, obviously, it's that Coast Guard network. You had a lot of referrals in the day, but I just think it's just so fun for me because I live in St. Louis, and I get a chance to see different markets and meet unique people in different areas, and that's kind of been my business. And I can't tell you how many times people that I know that are friends in the industry that are here in St. Louis that have told me, dude, what are you doing? Why don't you just go to an open house here in St. Louis? Why don't you go meet realtors here in St. Louis? And that's just not what I've built over the last 15 years. And so the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because I'm kind of going up against the grain with a bigger vision, a bigger purpose in line. And the knowledge that y'all have out there, just don't stop giving, sharing, because you just never know where you may have an impact on somebody. And Chris and I met here in St. Louis, and just thankful for that, because your journey took you to Nashville, and you're doing amazing things over there, and your charity that you're doing and helping a lot of people, and just some of the things that you're doing. And you're a big connecting type. You like to bring people together and have events and connect people, and that's one of the things that I love and appreciate too. So maybe one more time we'll do a live from one of your events.
Let's do it, dude. I would love that. And we'll definitely invite you, Mark. I know Joel doesn't like to invite you to things, but I'll invite you, brother. You're more than welcome anytime. And definitely 100% bear down, Chicago Bears. Let's go, baby. This is our year. We're due. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. I'm going to go get
stuff, y'all. Thanks all for tuning in out there from the interwebs, wherever you are from. Good hanging out, guys, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you.